and welcome to tonight's episode of Realities in Moment with Susie. On tonight's show, I have two lovely guests with me. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Here I have Carrington. Carrington, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure.
And also I have KB. KB, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope everybody has had a lovely weekend. It's Halloween. I don't celebrate Halloween, but you know what? It's a lovely day. The sun is shining. Everything is nice. But the kids are not trick-or-treating. Totally against it. But anyway, let's get on with the show. On today's show, we're going to be talking about polygamy. Yes, polygamy. And I've got my two wonderful guests for us to explore that subject. We're going to start off by looking at what polygamy is. And like most people know, some people don't, because they're not in a position whereby they experience it or see it. Polygamy is whereby one man legally gets married to one or more wives. I think different cultures have different things. In the Islam religion, you can marry up to 4 wives. African traditional religion, I guess you can marry as many as you can afford. So that's what polygamy is, and we're exploring it. We're looking at the effect that it has on people. Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it done for religious reasons, for cultural reasons, or just because somebody wants more than one woman? Is that a legal way of doing it? We're also looking at how does it affect the family financially? Sexually, how does it work? You know, how does the whole family life work? Guys, remember, this is a live show. The phone number is going to be scrolled across the screen so you can ring in and join this conversation anytime you like. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to Carrington because you're nearer to me.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go interpretation. I'm just going to go straight to Carrington. Carrington, polygamy.
Right.
What do you think of polygamy?
Okay. My view of polygamy is based on experience.
Wow. Yep.
And the experience stems from my dad being a practicing polygamist.
So you grew up in a polygamous home?
I grew up in a polygamous family. I don't support it for a number of reasons.
Wait, before we go there, can I quickly ask you, how many wives did your dad have?
My dad had 3 wives.
3 wives?
He had 3 wives.
How many kids?
17 children.
17?
Yes.
Wow, that's a lot.
So polygamy, from my understanding, is when a man has more than 2 wives. More than 2 wives. So
is it?
When
so if you have 2 wives?
That's bigamy. So bigamy is when a man has 2 wives. Anything over 2 wives becomes...
But in the UK, you can only have 1.
In the UK, of course, in the Western culture.
In the Western culture.
The Western culture, not just the UK. Yes, because of the sort of Western beliefs, because of the strong religious orientation.
More of a Christian orientation, isn't it?
It's frowned upon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So 3.
But I think polygamy itself is something that is prevalent in Africa.
And the Middle East.
And the Middle East.
Yeah.
And obviously it's got that Islamic connotation to it.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Because as practicing religious people, they tend to do what has been sort of done over generations. So if you look at Islam as a religion, the Prophet Muhammad was a practicing polygamist.
So it's like
he had multiple wives.
Yeah.
Okay. If you look at the Christian religion
in the Old Testament,
there were polygamists.
Yeah.
In the Old Testament.
Yeah.
But
you're very true.
if you look at the New Testament, which the word Christianity stems from.
Yeah.
So Christianity didn't stem from the Old Testament. It stemmed from the New Testament because of Christ.
You're very, that's
so
right, yes.
in the New Testament, that was not the way of life.
Yeah, that changed that old way of life.
Exactly. So the West have embraced Christianity.
Yeah, and they brought it to Africa.
Yeah. Africa as a continent was centuries upon centuries behind the West. in embracing the religion. So it's very difficult for the whole old way of life in Africa to be completely eradicated. Okay, so that's why you still see pockets of polygamy in various African.
It's not kind of pockets, is it? It's loads in Nigeria.
Well. I was having this conversation with my wife today before I left the house, and although it's still present in Africa, in Nigeria, but it's not as prevalent as it was.
True.
It's still being frowned upon now.
Yeah.
So with education, has also come realization of the impact.
That makes it interesting, because that is where my question comes in.
Whereas before, people just sort of threw caution to the wind, did what they wanted to do, because they could do it without thinking of the consequences on what they're leaving behind. But with education, studies upon studies have shown that the effect of polygamy on the family, the effect of polygamy as a stigma. Right? So all those things, people with the education have realized that, I don't particularly want to be stigmatized as this or as that, although it still happens, but not as prevalent.
Wow. That is a big insight for me, coming from someone who actually lived in it. So what we're going to do, we're still going to revisit that, but I want to get a feel of how KB sees it.
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is sort of define what polygamy is. Polygamy is a catch-all phrase for a person having more than one spouse, man or woman. Then you can now drill down and define that even more. So polygamy is the practice of a man having more than one wife or spouse, and polyandry is the practice of a woman having more than one husband.
So women can do it too.
Absolutely, they can if they choose to. Now, I'm really I'm not necessarily for it or against it in the sense that it isn't a negative thing. It is what you make it, and that is the key. And I think we have to be quite clear in saying that people are the ones that make up how well or how not well a situation works. So there's nothing wrong itself with polygamy or monogamy for that instance. But if people don't want to make it work, or if they're unable to make it work in the sense they don't have the qualities they need to make it work, then it wouldn't work, irrespective of whatever lifestyle you choose for yourself. So it's a case of there's nothing wrong with it if you have the right qualities to make it work. And that's so important. I think for a lot of people who are against it, they use their own experiences as a filter to see and judge this practice. And
also, you have women are against it because they really don't feel like sharing their man.
Well, some women are against it. Not all women are against it. Well, a lot, but not all. I think we have to make that clear. And again, to me, I find that as a very myopic mindset, in the sense that if you don't want to share your man, that's your mindset, irrespective of whether you're a polygamist or a monogamist, if you understand what I mean. And not wanting to share your man has nothing to do with what happens in your relationship, because infidelity is quite rife in monogamous relationships. So again, the issue here isn't polygamy. The issue is with people, is what I'm trying to say. It's with people who have not been able to transcend their own ego or their own insecurities, and they assume that if my man, we look at polygamy and polygamy and put it together. If my man wants more than one woman, then he's not happy with me. Or if he wants to marry another woman, then he's not happy with me.
As a woman, KB, I would say it's not that they're saying that my man, he's not satisfied, I think, usually.
Well, he's not satisfied, yes, absolutely.
Happy, well, I guess it's relative, isn't it? You have to be to be happy, you have to be satisfied. Yeah,
but again, that is a myopic mindset to look at it in that respect. Because if he didn't want to marry another woman, doesn't mean he's necessarily satisfied with you either. That is the issue. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing. If he's not satisfied with you, he isn't satisfied with you, whether he wants to be monogamous or polygamous.
you've thrown another spanner in the works. that has totally thrown me, and I'm thinking, oh, all you poor women out there. Okay, so now, God, you've thrown me there. Okay, so now, what you've just said is, we've just looked at it, and basically, I've worked out that it can be a cultural thing, it could be a religious thing, but it could also be a selfish thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah? But then, polygamy doesn't come into it, because Carrington's just said it's 2 or more.
Yeah.
That's his perspective.
So wait, hold on. That's Carrington's perspective. I like that.
It is. If you look at the definition of polygamy,
Yeah.
it is when a man has a wife,
One wife. Yeah.
takes another wife, he becomes a bigamist. When he now goes into or elongates that process into taking another wife,
He becomes a polygamist.
becomes polygamist.
But if you're in Nigeria,
definition.
but wait, Carrington. But now I know I refer a lot to Nigeria because I lived there. So if you're in Nigeria and I have one wife, and then I go and get another wife, then wouldn't I be a polygamist then?
To be honest with you, it's just a definition, isn't it? Irrespective of, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One is what society deems to be right.
Christian society. Yeah.
So anything over 1, we're not talking about a man going out and having concubines.
No.
Okay, so we're talking about a man legally married, extending that legal practice to a third person. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. So whether it's one other or 2 others, I don't want us to get bombed up on
with
bigamy or polygamy here.
Yeah.
The key thing here is, what's the impact?
Could I just come in quickly and clarify that the polygamy is not necessarily the preserve of non-Christian men. There are quite a lot of Christians, especially in the United States of America, the Mormons, for instance, who practice polygamy.
That's true. The Mormons do, don't they?
So it's not necessarily a Muslim thing or a non-Christian
But
thing.
Mormons aren't Christians.
They do see themselves as Christians, not in the traditional sense that we see Christians, but they see themselves as Bible-believing Christians.
Correct. So Bible-believing, not all Bible believers
are
see themselves
Christians.
as Christians.
Yes, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
the word Christian stems from Christ.
Yeah.
And a lot of people under the banner of Christianity who aren't sort of practicing Jesus Christ's teachings will be the first to tell you, I'm not a Christian. I'm a believer.
That's
but
quite true.
You are right, KB. There were a lot of people out there who believe in God, but still, till this day, practice what the Old Testament practices were.
My dad, sorry to say that, but my dad, he wasn't married.
So I mean, back to the topic. From a polygamy perspective,
as a person that grew up in that environment, do you see, I'll start with positives, anything positive about living in such an environment?
It's very difficult to look at positives within a cloud of negativities. But in every situation, there is always a positive.
Somewhere along the line.
There will always, if you dig deeper, you will find a positive. Now, the positive could very well be to the man, because he's having his cake and he's eating it.
He's eating it for sure.
So that could be a positive. But, in this sort of, now that I'm a father, my whole perspective on life is different to when I wasn't
growing up.
A father. So, in terms of responsibilities, I've got a lot of responsibilities now. At the same time, I've got dependents, my children. So the key thing that I've drawn out of my background and now is that, as a child growing up in a polygamous family, you always have to be conscious of, what you say about the second wife.
So you're never free, in that sense.
back in those eras, back in those times, you probably wouldn't be free because you know how the Nigerian Buginese, you can't really voice your opinions, and
so all of a sudden a whole load of drama will come out of one word.
So, but the biggest impact I think will be on the sitting wife.
When you say the sitting wife, is that the first?
Yes.
Isn't the first one always in charge though?
Irrespective of whether you're in charge, you still feel somehow. There will be some scars, I think.
Yeah.
If it's, KB alluded to a point there. So there are instances in history where both parties before the third joined, discussed it, and that's what they wanted. But the ones in Africa. Sorry, Kevin, the ones in Africa, most of the time, it's not planned, is it?
This currently just raised quite a valid point in the sense that, again, I want to make sure that we're not just viewing what is an issue or a way of life through Nigerian lenses or the way it's been done. Yeah. Because that isn't necessarily the way it is. It's just the way a lot of our people have chosen to do it. So, and this is the problem, because when you look at it through that lens, then of course your objectivity is clouded. In fact, you're not objective anymore. There are many cultures where polygamy works very well.
And it's planned.
And it's planned, because the mindset is totally different. The whole idea, first of all, of polygamy is that both parties have to agree to it. Now, in our culture, what happens is that the man marries the first wife, and at some point down the line, he just goes out on his own volition and brings in a second wife. And at some point down in time, then he might extend that. And that is the wrong way to do it. It has to do, first of all, it has to be with the consent of the first wife. In fact, the Bible makes it clear, funny enough, that if you have more than one wife, there are certain principles and procedures to follow. I think this
is this in the Old Testament? It's not in the New Testament.
Yeah, I think we should stop making this distinction between the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's one Bible and it's one God.
But there has to be a distinction, KB.
Well, without us getting into a religious discussion, it's very difficult to discuss polygamy without being religious. But
it's very, very hard.
Yeah, but I think we have to be clear in the sense that, as Christians, we make this distinction between the old and new, and we forget that most of the laws, in fact, all the laws that we obey today and we run our lives by, were given in the Old Testament. And there's only one God, and it doesn't change. So whatever is in the Old Testament and the New Testament are working together. In fact, Jesus Christ made it clear. He said, I have not come to change one jot of the law, and not one jot will not be fulfilled if I don't do it. So we have to be very clear that there's nothing wrong with the Old Testament in essence.
Yeah.
And in Deuteronomy, it made it very clear that if you marry more than one wife, there's certain procedures you have to follow. There's certain rights you have to give the first wife, for instance. There's certain rights you have to give the firstborn of the first wife.
Yeah.
Because there's a way to do things. And in Nigeria, obviously, we do it our own way. The man goes away on his own volition and he marries a second wife. And this is obviously going to be the foundation for strife, because she hasn't agreed to this. So she's highly unlikely to be happy with it.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're actually making 100% sense to me. And do you know why you're doing that? There's a TV program, and it's called A Man and Five Wives. And this man is actually married to 5 wives, and they all live in the same house in America. A white guy, they all live in the same house. And what he's done is they've arranged it, and each wife has a different role.
Absolutely.
And
it's a community.
Yeah,
that's
some
the way
of them
it's supposed
go
to work.
out and work. Some of them, they've got like 2 that look after all the kids. He's got about 15, 16 kids. But then what actually interested me more was the fact that he now wanted another wife. And so he came to these wives and he said to them, I've got another woman. And they sat down and they spoke about it off camera. Some of them said they weren't too happy with it, but you know what? It's happened to the woman before then. And what they done was they arranged and they brought the woman into the house to meet with all of them.
Almost like an interview, basically.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Before he actually married them. And they all sat down and spoke. They all attended the wedding. So it was a group thing. So in that sense, I guess when you think about it in that sense, yes, polygamy will work because they've all agreed to it. They knew when they were getting married to the guy that this is who.
It's the only way it can work.
Yeah, the first wife did say she didn't know it was going to be like that, but now it is. It's fine. but all the rest, and these were well-educated women with good jobs.
So I wouldn't say that's the only way it can work. So
the easiest way for it to work.
That's the best. That's the best
Yes.
way.
Yeah, the best
That's
way.
the best
Yeah,
way, because
absolutely.
that way everyone knows what they're getting
Yeah.
into. But I mean, in Africa, then we keep referring back to Africa.
Well, do you know what? We
because
are Nigerians.
We are
Africans. Yeah.
Africans. It's rife where we come
Yeah.
from. Majority of the viewers will probably be Africans, and then they can probably relate to
that. Yeah.
some of the points that might be made in reference to Africa.
Yeah.
But there are instances where I've seen polygamy work. So the first wife, the second wife get on very, very well. So there are instances, and it's quite funny that one of your viewers,
Facebook friends,
made a very valid point, and the point was along the lines that the head, once still there, holds everything together.
Absolutely.
So it all depends on the man and
the
how
head
he deals
holds
with it.
everything together. So what happens when the head is cut off, i.e., we're not here forever.
Yeah.
So at some point, people die and, some are left behind. In a situation where the head dies,
Yeah.
people's true colors starts to come out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then, I've heard stories where
as soon as the man
people
dies,
have lived in harmony, they've gotten on well, children, best of friends, travel together, do things together. The man dies, and lo and behold, it's a big court case.
Yeah.
For example,
my ex-husband's family was like that.
one of the richest men in Africa. I wouldn't call any names, but I'm sure a lot of people would know who I'm talking about. Very, very rich. Had a media empire.
Yeah, I know
ran for presidency, even won the presidential race, but never got to power. And we're talking about somebody who held not just a family together, but held a business together.
But you know what, Karen? I'm going to say something about what you just said.
He died.
You know what I'm going to say about what you just said?
Everything came tumbling down. So
but
the
should I tell you something?
The business?
No, but should I tell you something? I'm not surprised. But you know why I'm not surprised? Because this particular man that you are talking about, yes, he had loads of wives, most probably to the point that you couldn't count how many. But there was one thing, they were not all living together. He had like 2 wives in each house. So he would have a massive house, and I know this because I knew one of the wives. So there was always going to be, once he left it, it was always going to fall apart because all of them would start creeping out of the woodwork. They weren't used to each other unless you lived in the same house as one of the wives. That was your best friend, and you found wives that were in one house at war with wives that were in another house.
You see, again, it brings me back to that point that I made earlier, in the sense that there's a way that things work well.
Yeah.
There's a way. There's no doubt about it. Things can work in many ways, but there's going to be always a single way in which they work the best and the most efficiently. And when it comes to polygamy, it is quite clear that the decision to marry another wife must be taken jointly with the man and the wife, or wives. Secondly, they really should live together, because the whole idea of polygamy is that you're creating a community.
One big happy family.
One big happy family where everyone feels part and inclusive in that family. And everybody's child is everybody's child. So my child is your child is mine. And
that's hard,
it's hard, but it's not impossible. Let me see, I have to say this. Nothing is hard. Human beings make it hard. Nothing is hard. It's as simple or as hard as you want to make it. It really is.
I've got a question for you, KB.
Yeah, go on.
So, and I keep going back to Africa, or even the Islamic culture. So, you have children being gifted to men as brides. They have no say in whether they end up in a polygamous family or not.
Hi, sorry, we have a call coming in. Hello. Hi, good evening. Yeah, you're on the show live. Who am I speaking to?
You're speaking to Greg.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What would you like to add? So, Greg, can you do me a favor? Can you turn your laptop or your computer down, please?
Yeah. You guys are wonderful.
Sorry, hold on, Greg. Sorry, I'm going to have to ask you again to turn your laptop or your computer down.
Yes, I'm just used to it now.
All right, thank you. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, listen to you guys. You were making the points I had on my mind. Now, especially when the longer said the impact is great. So I wanted to ask, if any of these impacts can be reversed, and in a short period of time, just by changing our attitude towards polygamy, because personally I think it's obsolete. But if we're still seeing some positive, how can we change our collective attitude towards it so that we can move forward as a people?
Okay, Carrington, that's for you.
Okay,
Thank you, Greg.
so thanks a lot, Greg. Just to make sure I've understood what Greg is saying. So he's talking about how could we apply some corrective. We can't reverse anything.
You can't, can you?
It's not
No,
possible.
that's true,
What
that's
happened
true.
happened.
No, I used the wrong
So
word.
we can't
there,
go back in time. But how can
Yeah.
we apply corrective
How can things be
measures
moved
to
into a positive?
to try and change
Yeah.
some of those impacts that we've
Yeah,
spoken about?
negative impacts. Yeah.
So in most cases, what you'll find is it's very difficult to apply any sort of corrective measures when the children affected remain children, because the reason being is they're still in that establishment. You know, in this country or in the West, if that happens, you know, they have establishments that deals with things like that, so social services. They've got trained practitioners who can, you know, find out the impact of the children and try and apply some of those corrective measures to make sure that they, you know, sort of rewire the brain if they can. But, you know, it's difficult to be able to go into the establishment of the home where the child has been, you know, living in polygamy, to be able to say, okay, I'm going to try and change everything. But once that child becomes an adult and leaves that environment, then, you know, at that point, the best way to deal with it is for, you know, that person to be open about some of the experiences, and, you know, they always say time is a healer. But another thing that's a healer is, you know, you being open, you confiding in somebody, you speaking out, and most importantly, if there has been rife between, you know, the child of, you know, first wife, child of second wife, you know, I think there needs to be an education process to let them realize that, you know, whatever might have happened never happened between me and you. You know, you are
my brother,
your
my sister.
offsprings
Yeah.
of the situation. You didn't make the situation. You didn't cause the situation. So I think if you can both heal and see each other as one, and although as difficult as it may sound, I think that is the first step to actually building the bridge.
Wow. Greg,
Yeah. Yes,
thank you.
I agree. However, there's also the collective problem that I see very clearly. For example, I may be wrong, but I don't know what you think. I think the reason for so many divisions in Africa could be attributed, one of the reasons being because of polygamy. Do you agree with it?
Do you guys agree?
Not at all. I don't agree that the issues we're facing in Africa has anything to do with the marital choices that people make in their lives. The problems we have in Africa has to do with people, not necessarily what's going on in their homes. And I have to say again that regarding polygamy, the problem is that when a home or a house is built on the wrong foundation, then it becomes very difficult to actually fix the home without having to tear it down and rebuild it. Now, what happens in polygamy is that the whole premise of the event is built on the wrong foundation. So obviously what happens is that what comes out of it is always going to be fraught with issues and with problems. That's just a given. And that's exactly why we see the problems we see in Africa, in Nigeria, with polygamy. And let me just say this. The issue of the kind of children that come out of polygamous homes, and maybe they have problems, the polygamy might have something to do with that. But it's an issue of parenting rather than an issue of polygamy. Yeah. You have people who come out from monogamous homes who have exactly the same problems. So, and even if you have those problems in the polygamous homes, it's an issue of parenting. Because if the people in the home, the man and the women, if they were of the right mindset and did it the right way, there will be no problems. So again, we come back to individuals. People have to start taking responsibility rather than blaming their situations for what happens to them.
KB, thank you so much. Greg, did you hear that?
I heard what he said. He also seems to validate what I just suggested to him, because he seems to make a connection between the individual's behavioral patterns, parenting behavioral patterns, stemming from polygamy over time. That's the way I read it, you know.
Yeah, I guess we're all going to see different parts of it. Do you understand? But I feel that from what KB and one of the things that Carrington said was about, siblings need to come together and they need to forget about everything that has happened, and that is still a hard one. And what KB said about there not being a foundation in the first place, and I kind of agree with them as well, saying that, the state of the country has nothing to do with, I can't pronounce that word. Polygamy.
Polygamy.
Yeah. Yeah, Greg?
But Greg, can you help us then? Can you make this connection? Because we're having problems making this connection between people's marital choices and what is going on in the country. Because can you elucidate us on that, please?
Okay, I'm not just referring to Nigeria. I'm actually taking it beyond Nigeria to the whole country, and I'm looking at the entire pattern. For example, when you have in a polygamous home, you are more likely to have, as a matter of fact, by virtue of the divisions in the home, you will have jealousy, you will have greed. The children of the first one will have the sense of entitlement. I'm sure you will agree.
Yeah.
Then you also have greed, jealousy, and selfishness, if you will. Jealousy, greed, selfishness. Now, when you have these three attributes that are the two different families at different levels in a polygamous setting, and you compare to a monogamous setting, you will discover that those people in polygamous setting, they become skilled over time. They become experts at being one, three, two, selfish.
Okay, Greg, you know what I'm going to do? Sorry, just because we have some other people ringing in as well. We're going to continue this part of the conversation on Facebook, yeah?
Yeah, okay.
All right, then. Okay, thank you so much for ringing in, though.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Before Greg called in, I think I would like to make a point. It'd be interesting to get your view.
Yeah, KB's view, yeah.
So, we have children that are married into,
polygamous
homes at a very, very young age. No rights to choose, no say in the matter. Right? And they end up in those homes, and before they even hit puberty, they've been subjected to certain things that they shouldn't. That
they wouldn't be subjected to if it was one dad, one mom,
a normal home, normal setting, they shouldn't be because of their age. Okay? Now, the right of choice has been taken away from them.
You don't have it.
Right? And they will grow up in those environments. Now, you can't tell me that there will be no long-lasting impact on these people.
Well, I'm not saying that. I never said that. But I think we should be very careful, because I think we're conflating multiple issues together. The issue of forced brides again, is quite distinct from polygamy. If a child was forced into a monogamous home, it is just as bad. It's not any better if it was forced into a monogamous relationship
It's not
as compared to a polygamous situation.
But we have children,
we're dealing with polygamy at the moment.
We have people like that, and we've looked at polygamy by choice. We've looked at polygamy by
culture,
the man
religion.
going out. So we look at polygamy. This is another form.
But again, I'm making that clear distinction. The issue isn't polygamy. If a child is being forced to marry a man who has more than one wife, the issue is not the fact that he's polygamous. The issue
But
is
it
that
does become an issue.
the issue is that she's being forced to get married. That's the issue. That's the main issue. So the issue isn't polygamy here, is what I'm saying.
Doesn't the issue become polygamy when she goes into that home? Once she becomes part of that.
The polygamous home existed before she went into
but
it.
then it's a problem for her because she has been forced into it.
I agree, but again, the issue is not polygamy. The issue is she's being forced. We should make it quite clear. If somebody goes willingly into a polygamous home, then it's not a problem.
Do you know what? I actually think very few people go willingly because you ain't dragging me there. I know some do. I know some do.
But majority.
I think, and again, this is what I'm trying to say.
But wait, just before you say that, can I just say, apart from people being forced there, some people actually end up there because they have no other choice. Like, they don't think they're going to see another husband.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
You understand?
Yeah.
There are so many ways. When you look at it, there are so many ways in which people are forced into that situation. Some because of their culture. Some because, some, the arranged marriage is there. Some, they have no other option. If I don't get married to this man, I'm not going to get another husband. So when you think about it, a lot of people are forced into it, whether we like it or not.
We're not looking
at that.
The reason.
We're looking at what's happening inside.
Absolutely. And again, this is what I'm trying to say. You see, I think we're getting confused with how some people handle their polygamous relationships, and we're using that to judge polygamy as a whole. And I keep saying it's like looking at the issue of Christianity. It's like looking at how some Christians are and using that to judge Christianity. And anybody will tell you that is wrong.
But we can only judge it by what we have on the table. At the end
well,
of
you
the
can
day,
judge it by what it is, not how people do it. That's quite important.
But I think we got to how it's being done, how people do it, when we were talking about how can it be done in a more pleasant way.
If you go to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, you can see it being done a totally different way. So again, we can't use just our experiences
then when you say that,
to judge how it's being done, because it's been done in many ways. We can go to the Mormons and look at the way they're doing it. We can go to other people in America and see how they're doing it, and it's totally different. So we have to be very objective, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we are being objective, and the point of children or brides being gifted into a home is prevalent in the region you just mentioned, Qatar.
Yeah, most of them are.
So
gifted.
maybe I shouldn't have said children, but okay, we can put that to one side.
Adults.
But if we go to the Middle East, a lot of the women that end up in polygamous family, or even go to India, a lot of the women that end up in this polygamous setting had no choice in the matter. They were gifted. Can
I just say this? There's an issue of forced marriages in the UK that has nothing to do with polygamy.
No, but we're not talking about those ones. Yeah. We're talking about...
Absolutely, yeah. You see, what I'm trying to say again, I keep coming back to this. The issue of forcing someone to marry another person has nothing to do with polygamy. It happens in monogamous relationships and it happens in polygamous relationships.
No,
so
we
can't use it.
Get into that
oh yeah. So some people get into it. And that's what I'm saying. Irrespective of how you get into it, is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
What is wrong is wrong. So the issue is not polygamy. The way you get into it might be an issue. So if you're forced into a polygamous home, of course you're not going to be happy in there. That doesn't make polygamy bad. It just means that you've been forced into it.
Correct.
And you're not happy about that.
No, you're very right.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm making clear.
I see your point, but I think the point I was trying to make is that, a man has multiple wives. So irrespective of how they got in there, the fact remains the same. A man has 2, 3, 4, 5 wives. Okay, and we're looking at that as the ball of discussion today.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me finish. As a ball of discussion today, and what we're trying to do is analyze that ball to understand, a number of things. So the first one being,
How does it
work? The second one
Yeah.
being, you know, are there any scars that will be left behind?
Are there any
The third one
positives and
is,
negatives
you
to
know,
it?
why this way of life? You know,
Okay.
and do we think that this way of life is on a decline, or do we think, you know, it's something that will, you know, continue?
Explode.
You know,
Okay.
so there's just some of
Yeah.
I totally agree. But I think, again, we have to be very clear in the sense that people are the issue. That's,
Oh, no,
that's
I
the most
agree
important
with
thing.
you 100%.
So what
Yeah,
happens is that
wow.
I spoke about the foundation. When the foundation of a building has
not
gone
solid,
awry already, then of course the building will be very shaky. So when you have people who have been forced into a polygamous home, or who have come in there through no desire of their own,
Well,
not
sometimes by
by choice. Yeah, let's look at the issue of not getting there by choice. Then the product of that union will rarely result in peace. There will always be strife. So we can look at that specifically. But I don't want us to confuse that with the issue of polygamy on its own, is what I'm trying to say.
Are you saying then that where an agreement to enter into a polygamous setting has been reached by
Both
all
parties involved.
all parties,
Yes.
right? That the human, the human elements of,
We just
or
fit in.
the human emotions of jealousy, envy, selfishness, all that goes out the door.
But what I'm saying, and I'm making very clear, what I'm saying is that where an agreement has been reached, people can make it work if they want to. And now we'll go back. I say we're talking about human beings, so it's quite easy to compare human beings in different situations, because whether you're in a polygamous home or a monogamous home, you're still dealing with human beings. Now you have
But
two
in
people.
a different way, KB.
Well,
Can I-
look,
wait,
well, look
KB,
at
I'm
it. It's
gonna
the
say
same
one thing.
issues. It's the same problems that
But
come to
wait,
the fore.
Can I say
that
one
cause the
thing,
same
KB? I'm
problems.
going to say one thing. When it comes to you talking about an agreement being made, that agreement usually only works for the man. Because that man can set down rules.
I
This
disagree.
is what is.
I
But the
disagree.
women might sit down and agree. Yes, my husband, I know you're bringing in a second wife. Yes, everything is going to be fine. It doesn't mean everything will be fine.
But see, again, we're coming back. We're dealing with human beings. Now, you have people who enter into an agreement within the context of a monogamous relationship, and they still break their agreement, and it still doesn't work,
Definitely.
and they still get jealous. They still get
Yeah,
possessive.
definitely.
So what I'm trying to say here,
They have more reason to be jealous.
Well, you know what? I keep saying this as a coach. I look at the fact that you can be or choose to be whatever you want to be. It's a choice. It's either conscious or unconscious. So at the end of the day, if you say, I agree to be in a polygamous relationship, and deep down you don't agree, then you have to take responsibility for that. That is not the problem of the relationship.
But
The
then,
problem is
Katie,
with
when
you.
you say that-
Because you don't have to agree to it
Hold
if you
on,
don't
we've got
want to.
another call. Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening. Hi. Hi, who am I speaking to, please? Hello? Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, I just started listening 5 minutes ago, so unfortunately I didn't hear what you said prior
Okay.
to the program, how you started the program. But with regards to polygamy, I think it's a very selfish concept that benefits only the man.
Yeah.
The biggest victim in things is the first wife who ultimately gets betrayed. Because if her husband really had any regard, respect, and love for her,
Yeah.
none of them at all would ever be an option.
Depending on the culture and the religion, yeah?
Depending on the
Culture.
religion.
If the culture says yes.
Cultural norms, even if it was to be a cultural norm, it's still a choice that the man has made. Because even if it's a norm in a culture, it's not every man that makes a decision to be a polygamist.
So that's
Economic construct.
that's a very valid point that you have made about selfishness, and you know I do agree to a degree about the core benefactor in the agreement or the arrangement being the man.
Always.
Because,
I totally disagree with that.
Because,
You disagree?
because I can't envisage a situation where, you know, the wife, the only wife in the relationship, talks to the husband and says, "Oh, by the way, it's time for you to go and get a second wife."
Yeah.
I can't fathom that.
It does happen,
In most cases, 99% of the time, the man, you know,
he starts
instigates the whole
yeah.
thing. But to address a point that you made, there are instances traditionally where the man has no choice in taking another wife. So, for example, if you look at the old Benin Kingdom, where traditionally, you know, when a king is crowned, he has to have more than one wife.
Yeah.
So, in instances like that, not sure if that still happens now, but if you go and study the Benin Kingdom, you will see that that was part of the tradition for a man to be gifted a wife from part of his elders or the setting. So in instances like that it happened, but in most cases, it's the man that actually goes out and decides, you know, whether after a beer or, you know, night out, decides, I've seen somebody else I want to bring into the house.
Yeah.
So.
Can I just address one of the points she made as well?
Yeah, go on. Go.
May I just say, I also think it's an economic construct because I know of a lady who is very well educated and she's well off, and she said to me in clear terms, and I was very surprised. I thought she was crazy, but she was.
Sorry, can you talk a bit louder? I can't hear you. Hello.
Okay, sorry. I said.
I think there might be something wrong with the reception on your phone. Could you ring back, please?
I'm just going to address her point and the point that Kaz made as well, in the sense that she's saying it's selfish. Again, that is quite short-sighted.
I agree with her. Sorry.
But I say this. There are many women, and we can't assume things because we have to look at what is. There are many women who are quite happy to go into a polygamous relationship.
I disagree with that word many, sorry. Not many.
Well, if we say in relation to what?
In the
grand scheme of things, there will be many. If we look at it in terms of percentages, there might be a few. But in grand scheme of things, there will be many. But let me say this. There's this assumption, I think, quite wrongly so, that, you know, it's predominantly the man who benefits from it.
KB, it is.
Can I finish, please? People forget that when you're creating a polygamous home, the main objective should be for the family. The family benefits, not the man. I'll tell you how the family benefits. Now, if a polygamous home is the way it should be, i.e. it's a community where there is a division of labor, there are chores that are being dished out, everybody's helping everybody. In that respect, everybody benefits. So you have, as a woman, for instance, you have people who are helping you raise your kids.
Yeah,
you have
like
people
the one
who,
I explained to
absolutely,
you,
people who are sharing the housework, the running of the home for you. Now, as a man, also, there are benefits for you. So we're not saying the man doesn't benefit.
The man benefits a lot.
Well, I disagree. Because people are looking at the sexual part of it, I think that's so wrong.
No, apart from the sexual, he's getting his meals done, he's getting his kid. Well, the man hardly has any work apart from
that benefit is not anymore. If you're getting food, then it's not anymore than you're getting if you marry one wife. So people focus on the sexual part of it. It's not. No, it's not. It really isn't. Because really, if it's about your food, you could get house helps. It's not about that. You could have 3 house helps who could give you as much food as you want. It isn't about that. What it's about is that when you have people who are living in the community and who all of them have the best interest of that community at heart, everybody benefits.
Okay, but
that's the idea.
I do not believe it was ever done on that.
In the biblical times, it was.
But KB, I think you are looking at an ideal world.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at the way polygamy is supposed to be done, not the way it's done today.
But let's look at.
So that's why I said you are looking at. So you're looking at the best case scenario. You're looking at an ideal world, and we know, based on statistics, it's far from it.
It's the
Yeah, you might
I
have,
agree,
you
I
might
agree,
have, you
I
might have,
agree.
because I remember watching that program as well.
Yeah.
So you might have the
I-
odd ones, such as that program, where it's one big happy family.
I agree.
And, you know, one thing also is where there is a method, a predefined method, things work.
Yeah.
Well, you see, it brings, I totally agree with you, but it brings me back to what I've been saying since.
Yeah.
That the problem isn't polygamy, the problem is with the way people do it. And we really have to make that distinction. It's the way people do it that causes the problem. The same way if you married one man and you didn't do it right, or one woman, you will still have issues.
No, but I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit naive.
So you might have more. You see, let's because
of course, you're going to have more problems.
not more problems.
people in the
Because
house.
you have more people
Yeah.
involved in it, the potential to have more problems exists. There's no doubt about that. But that doesn't in itself make the whole thing unviable. It really doesn't. Let's be honest about it. Like any community, there will be problems. Now, as Carrington intimated earlier, when there is leadership, not just from the man, because the women have to provide leadership. So when there's leadership and it's done the way it's supposed to be done, it works for the benefit of the community.
But Kate, one
I must say
thing I
that.
am going to say is that for some reason or the other, it does not come with rules. When people, and the rules, even if it does come with rules, the rules are not around the women. The rules are around the man. So that is where I sit beside Carrington and say, I agree with you.
Again, it's the way it's being done.
No, but that's
See,
fine.
I believe, funny enough, I believe that even in the monogamous relationships, there should be rules.
There should be, but it's
clearly laid out rules. In fact, written down rules. In fact, that's what I believe.
Oh, I don't know about written. I think that's going too far, KB.
It might be, but that's what I
You
believe.
need to tell me one of those rules that need to be. No,
it's the same.
Like what? Give me an example of one of the rules.
It doesn't really matter what it is.
No, I want an example.
But the reason it's written down is that it's always easier to refer back to something that is written down and has been agreed by both parties.
Can you give me one rule?
A good example will be, I'll tell you, this is so important.
Yeah.
Many couples, when they get married, say, we will never go to bed on an argument.
Yeah.
But I can assure you, that's one of the first rules.
So they should have that written down.
Now, I assure you, if it's written down, you see, time and time, can I just say something?
I can see some men and women slapping themselves with those rules.
Well, that's fine. But can I just say something? It's quite
Yeah.
important that it has been proven time and time again that when people have something written down to refer to, they're more likely to obey it.
But unfortunately, marriage is too informal.
It's not unfortunate. It's a choice.
Okay,
we must make this. People choose to do what they want to do.
KB,
People choose to write it down.
But wait, KB, when it's formal, we've only got about 4 minutes left.
I think we're going into.
We're forgetting about.
We're going out of
The remit
We're
of
going
the
out
show.
of it now.
I think if you bring it back in, the view that Kenny's putting together, I fully understand where you're coming from. But if we look at statistically how polygamy has come about, we will realize that A, it's been done without consent most of the time.
I agree there.
Of
3 minutes, okay.
I just quickly round
Yeah,
up. We've
we've
done
got
most
3
of the time without consent of the sitting wife. And then secondly, the benefit or the key benefactor in all this, most of the cases, is the man.
Not from the examples we have in the Bible. Not from the examples we have in the Bible.
Well, we're talking about modern day now.
Yeah.
We're talking about modern day now. You know, so we're looking at our generation because
Our generation
next
doesn't.
generation
I
will
agree.
change.
I think
Even my dad's
to round it up, we
generation.
have to be clear that our generation doesn't do it properly.
Even our parents'
Everything
generation
has to be done
didn't
the
do it.
right way. I actually agree.
Yeah.
Everything has to be done properly to get the most benefit from it. And if you don't do it properly, then you won't get the benefits from it. There is a way for everything to be
I
done.
don't see a future for polygamy, I'm afraid.
A positive future.
I don't see a future for it.
No, as in it's not going to go away,
Yeah.
is it? It's not going to go away.
Yes, but it's not going to be.
Do you think it's gonna
I mean,
be-
I think somebody said on your social media
With
gay rights. It got something.
You know what? Without a doubt, it's so interesting to say that. But without a doubt,
But guys, we've
society
got, what,
is
2 minutes
moving,
left?
unfortunately, towards
1
men and
minute.
women being left without a
Right.
husband,
Guys.
and they be forced to marry a man that has a wife
Guys,
already.
do you know what? Sorry, this is how it always goes. As soon as you get into the meat of it,
Time goes on.
time goes, an hour does fly away. But do you know what? I need to say a big thank you. And before we go, if both of you could each give your view on polygamy, now. So if I'll start with KB this time.
Okay.
KB, go on. Your view.
My view on polygamy is that polygamy is not the issue. People are the issue. If done right, it has many, many benefits, both to the man, the woman, and the children involved. But it has to be done right because it takes a special kind of woman and a special kind of man to draw out the benefits in it.
Women.
Women, absolutely.
Carrington?
So my view is, I think polygamy is a practice that will leave a long-lasting impact on those left behind. No matter how you sugarcoat it, there's nothing as good as being in a monogamous family. Yes, there will be problems in those families, but those are problems that we have blueprints of resolving. When you come to polygamy, there's always loads more problems to contend with, and I think it's a selfish practice, and I don't think there is a sort of cause for the argument in modern society.
Oh, thank you so much, KB and Carrington. I'm really great. I've really had fun. I love a good discussion. That is what I love. And do you know what? My view, I don't have a view, but I would never ever go for it because I just feel that rules or no rules, there's going to be too much negative emotions, stirred, jealousy, enviness, and everything. But you know what, guys? That's the end of the show. I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you to our callers that called in. A big, massive thank you to my guests for the evening, Kevin Davis and Carrington. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to be here next week with our second part on sickle cell. Thank you so much, guys, and good night.
Badu Magazine, Africa's #1 magazine with the best entertainment in the UK. Essential information on business opportunities, latest happening in the entertainment scenes, student parties, house of worship conferences, and much more. For advert placement and business listings, we are equally your #1. Get your copy now at our website at badumagazine.com and various outlets in and around Nigeria, UK, USA, and Canada.
Magazine. Go and grab your copy now. Bedu ni hello. Bedu magazine. Bedu ni hello.
It's okay to lose control.